Life's not fair. Others spend their lives in the dark. Everything you see is for what they can take. A dream searches for what it can give. Run away, Simba.
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, where every video brings entertainment to life. The Lion King is a 2019 American musical drama film featuring pioneering photorealistic computer-generated animation that recreates Disney's beloved 1994 animated classic with an unprecedented level of visual realism. Produced by Walt Disney Pictures and Fairview Entertainment and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, the film serves as a faithful reimagining of one of Disney's most celebrated and commercially successful animated features. It was directed and co-produced by Jon Favreau from a screenplay by Jeff Nathanson, marking Favreau's second collaboration with Disney following the groundbreaking success of The Jungle Book, 2016. Which demonstrated the possibilities of blending advanced visual effects with virtual filmmaking. Although widely marketed as a live-action remake, The Lion King was created almost entirely through sophisticated CGI animation and cutting-edge virtual production techniques, making it one of the most technologically ambitious films ever produced. Every animal, environment, and landscape seen throughout the film was digitally created by visual effects artists, with the exception of a single live-action shot at the sunrise featured in the opening sequence. The filmmakers utilized revolutionary virtual reality tools that enabled Favreau and his cinematographers to shoot digitally generated environments as though they were filming on physical African locations, creating a cinematic experience that closely resembled traditional live-action filmmaking despite being almost entirely computer-generated. The film features an acclaimed ensemble voice cast led by Donald Glover as the adult Simba, the exiled prince destined to become king of the Pride Lands. J.D. McCrary as young Simba, beyond Kate Tilda copyright Knowles Carter as the adult Nala Shehadi, right Joseph as young Nala, James Earl Jones, reprising his iconic role as King Mufasa for the final time after originating the character in the 1994 animated film. A performance that would ultimately become one of the legendary actor's final major film roles before his death in 2024. Chiwetel Ejiofor as the manipulative and power-hungry Scar, replacing Jeremy Irons from the original film. Seth Rogen as the warm-hearted warthog Puma, Billy Eichner as the witty Meerkat Timon, John Connie as the wise mandrill Rafiki, John Oliver as the hornbill Zazu, Alfred Woodard as Simba's mother Sarabi, Florence Kasumba as Shenzi, Eric Andre Tilde copyright as Azizi, Keegan Michael Key as Kamari, and Amy Sundaries as the elephant shrew. Together, the cast combines returning legacy performers with new interpretations that balance respect for the original film while bringing fresh energy to its iconic characters. The story follows Simba, a curious and adventurous young lion cub who is born as the rightful heir to the Pride Lands under the reign of his noble and respected father, King Mufasa. Celebrated by the animals of the kingdom during a ceremonial presentation atop Pride Rock, Simba is raised to understand the responsibilities of leadership and the importance of the circle of life. However, his ambitious uncle Scar, resentful after losing his claim to the throne, secretly conspires with a clan of exiled hyenas to seize power for himself. After orchestrating a devastating wildebeest stampede that results in Mufasa's death, Scar manipulates the grief-stricken Simba into believing that he was responsible for his father's demise and convinces him to flee the Pride Lands forever. Escaping into the distant jungle, Simba is rescued by the carefree duo Timon and Pumbaa, who teach him their philosophy of Hakuna Matata, encouraging him to leave his painful past behind and embrace a life free from responsibility. As Simba matures into adulthood, he lives peacefully away from his homeland until he unexpectedly reunites with his childhood friend Nala, who reveals that Scar's tyrannical rule has plunged the Pride Lands into famine, suffering, and ecological devastation. Guided by Rafiki and inspired by the enduring wisdom and spiritual legacy of Mufasa, Simba finally accepts his true identity and returns home to confront Scar. In an epic battle for the future of the kingdom, Simba exposes Scar's betrayal, defeats him, restores balance to the Pride Lands, and ultimately assumes his rightful place as king, completing his journey from frightened exile to courageous leader while ensuring the continuation of the circle of life for future generations. Development of the remake was officially announced by Disney in September 2016, following the enormous worldwide success of the studio's live-action reimaginings, particularly Favreau's The Jungle Book, which demonstrated that photorealistic CGI storytelling could successfully reinterpret classic animated films for modern audiences. Favreau envisioned The Lion King not simply as a technological showcase but as an opportunity to create a more immersive and naturalistic version of the original story while preserving its timeless themes of family, responsibility, destiny, loss, redemption, and the interconnectedness of nature. Drawing inspiration from both the 1994 animated film and Disney's award-winning Broadway musical, the filmmakers subtly expanded several character interactions, incorporated additional cultural influences, and refined certain emotional moments without substantially altering the original narrative. Extensive research into African wildlife, ecosystems, geography, lighting conditions, and animal behavior was conducted to ensure that every species moved, interacted, and behaved as realistically as possible while still conveying the emotional depth necessary for storytelling. Most of the principal voice cast signed on during early 2017, while production commenced later that year using specially constructed blue screen stages in Los Angeles. Instead of relying on conventional animation workflows, the production pioneered an innovative virtual filmmaking process in which directors, cinematographers, and camera operators navigated fully rendered digital environments using virtual reality headsets and specially designed digital camera rigs. This approach allowed filmmakers to compose shots, adjust lenses, block scenes, and capture camera movements exactly as they would on a traditional live-action film set. Visual effects were created primarily by Moving Picture Company, MPC, whose artists spent years crafting extraordinarily detailed animal models, realistic fur simulations, lifelike facial anatomy, environmental effects, atmospheric lighting, and expansive African landscapes. Every frame was meticulously rendered to achieve documentary-level realism while maintaining the emotional clarity required for the narrative, making the film one of the most technologically sophisticated productions ever undertaken. The film's music combined beloved classics with newly created material. Academy Award-winning composer Hans Zimmer returned to re-record and expand his iconic orchestral score from the original film, incorporating larger orchestral arrangements and additional African musical influences. Legendary songwriter Elton John reunited with lyricist Tim Rice to oversee updated versions of the original songs, including Circle of Life, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, and Hakuna Matata. South African composer and producer Label M. also returned to contribute his distinctive African choral arrangements, preserving one of the defining musical identities of the franchise. Beyond Tilde copyright Knowles Carter collaborated with Elton John on reimagining portions of the soundtrack and wrote and performed the original song Spirit, which serves as a pivotal emotional moment in the film. She further curated and produced the companion album The Lion King, The Gift, inspired by the film's themes and African musical traditions, featuring collaborations with numerous international artists. With an estimated production budget between $250 million and $260 million, The Lion King became one of the most expensive films ever produced and remains among Disney's costliest remakes, reflecting the enormous investment required to achieve its unprecedented visual realism and groundbreaking production techniques. The Lion King held its world premiere at the Dolby Theatre in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on July 9, 2019, before receiving a wide theatrical release in the United States on July 19, 2019, in Dolby Cinema, RED 3D, IMAX, and other premium large-format formats. The film proved to be one of the year's biggest cinematic events, opening to massive audiences across North America and international markets. During its theatrical run, it grossed more than $1.66 billion worldwide, including approximately $543.6 million in the United States and Canada and more than $1.12 billion from overseas territories, making it the second highest-grossing film of 2019, behind only Avengers: Endgame. It also became the highest-grossing animated film of all time upon its release, a distinction it held from August 2019 until September 2024, while ranking among the highest-grossing films in cinema history and becoming one of Disney's most profitable releases of the decade. The film set numerous domestic and international opening weekend records and demonstrated the enduring popularity of the Lion King franchise across multiple generations of audiences. Despite its extraordinary commercial success, The Lion King received mixed reviews from critics. Reviewers overwhelmingly praised its astonishing photorealistic visual effects, revolutionary use of virtual production technology, breathtaking environmental detail, realistic animal animation, Hans Zimmer's sweeping musical score, and the performances of much of its voice cast, particularly James Earl Jones, Donald Glover, Beyond Tilde copyright Knowles Carter, Billy Eichner, Seth Rogen, and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Many critics acknowledged the film as a remarkable technical achievement that pushed the boundaries of digital filmmaking and visual effects. However, many also argued that its mere shot-for-shot recreation of the 1994 original limited its artistic ambition and emotional resonance. The hyper-realistic character designs, while visually impressive, were frequently criticized for reducing facial expressiveness and emotional nuance compared to the hand-drawn animation of the original, resulting in dramatic scenes that some reviewers felt lacked the same emotional power. Even so, audiences embraced the film enthusiastically, praising its nostalgic appeal, visual spectacle, beloved musical numbers, and faithful adaptation of Disney's classic story. The film received nominations for Best Animated Feature Film and Best Original Song, Spirit, at the 77th Golden Globe Awards and the 25th Critics' Choice Awards. while earning nominations for Best Special Visual Effects at the 73rd British Academy Film Awards and Best Visual Effects at the 92nd Academy Awards, recognizing its groundbreaking technological accomplishments. The story was later expanded with Barry Jenkins' Mufasa, The Lion King, released on December 20, 2024, which serves as both a prequel exploring Mufasa's early life and rise to kingship and a sequel continuing Simba's legacy, further expanding Disney's reimagined Lion King universe. Following the iconic opening rendition of Circle of Life, the film begins in the vast Pride lands of Tanzania, where animals from every corner of the kingdom gather at Pride Rock to witness the presentation of Simba, the newborn son of King Mufasa and Queen Sarabi. The ceremony is conducted by the wise mandrill Rafiki, the kingdom's shaman and spiritual advisor, who anoints the young cub and presents him to the assembled wildlife as the future king. While the kingdom celebrates the birth of its rightful heir, Mufasa's younger brother, Scar, watches with growing resentment. Once next in line to inherit the throne, Scar is embittered by Simba's birth, which pushes him further down the line of succession. Consumed by jealousy and ambition, Scar begins secretly plotting to seize control of the Pride lands for himself. As Simba grows into a curious and adventurous cub, Mufasa teaches him about the responsibilities of leadership, explaining that a true king must protect every creature within the kingdom and maintain the delicate balance known as the Circle of Life, in which all living things are connected. Mufasa proudly shows Simba the vast territories stretching from Pride Rock to the horizon, but warns him never to venture beyond the kingdom's borders, particularly into the Forbidden Elephant Graveyard, a desolate wasteland inhabited by dangerous hyenas. Scar, however, manipulates Simba's youthful curiosity by suggesting that the graveyard is a secret place fit for brave future kings. Excited by the prospect of proving himself, Simba persuades his adventurous best friend Nala to accompany him beyond the borders. The cubs evade the watchful Zazu, Mufasa's loyal hornbill majordomo, and enter the graveyard, where they are confronted by a vicious clan of spotted hyenas led by the ruthless Shenzi. Alongside Kamari and Azizi, the hyenas surround the cubs and prepare to kill them, but Zazu alerts Mufasa, who arrives just in time to rescue Simba and Nala after a fierce confrontation. Although deeply disappointed by Simba's reckless disobedience, Mufasa chooses compassion over anger. Later that evening, father and son share a heartfelt conversation beneath the stars, where Mufasa explains that the great kings of the past continue to watch over the Pride lands from the heavens and promises that one day he too will guide Simba from the night sky. Inspired by his father's wisdom and love, Simba vows to become a king as noble as Mufasa, unaware that Scar has already begun setting a far more sinister plan into motion. Recognizing that Mufasa remains the greatest obstacle to his ambitions, Scar secretly forms an alliance with the hyenas. He promises them unrestricted hunting rights throughout the Pride lands if they help eliminate both Mufasa and Simba, ending the lions' rule and allowing the hyenas to feast freely. Together they devise a deadly trap. Scar lures Simba into a narrow gorge under the pretense of a surprise from his father, instructing him to wait there while he secretly signals the hyenas to stampede a massive herd of wildebeests directly through the canyon. As thousands of panicked animals thunder toward the helpless cub, Scar rushes to inform Mufasa that Simba is trapped. Without hesitation, Mufasa leaps into the gorge, risking his own life to rescue his son. He successfully throws Simba to safety but is left clinging desperately to the edge of the cliff, believing his brother will save him. Mufasa pleads for Scar's help. Instead, Scar coldly reveals his long-hidden betrayal by whispering, "Long live the king," before throwing Mufasa back into the raging stampede below, where he is crushed to death. After the herd passes, Simba discovers his father's lifeless body and is overwhelmed with grief. Exploiting the cub's shock and innocence, Scar convinces Simba that the tragedy was entirely his fault and claims that the Pride will never forgive him. Terrified and guilt-ridden, Simba flees the Pride lands. Scar then orders the hyenas to hunt Simba down and kill him, but the young lion narrowly escapes into the desert after outrunning his pursuers. Believing Simba dead, Scar returns to Pride Rock and falsely announces that both Mufasa and Simba perished in the stampede. He declares himself the new king and immediately invites the hyenas into the Pride lands, forever altering the kingdom's balance. After wandering through the scorching desert, Simba collapses from exhaustion and is left for dead until he is discovered by an unlikely pair of outcasts, Timon, a witty meerkat, and Pama, a kind-hearted warthog. The pair nurse Simba back to health and welcome him into their carefree lifestyle, introducing him to their philosophy of Hakuna Matata, a Swahili phrase meaning no worries. Determined to leave his painful past behind, Simba embraces their philosophy and spends years living peacefully in a lush jungle oasis, feeding on insects and enjoying a life free from responsibility. As Simba matures into adulthood, Timon and Pumbaa become his adoptive family and closest companions. Meanwhile, life in the Pride Lands deteriorates under Scar's tyrannical rule. Having fulfilled his promise to the hyenas, Scar allows them unrestricted access to the kingdom's hunting grounds, resulting in widespread overhunting, dwindling food supplies, environmental devastation, and severe drought. The once thriving Pride Lands become barren and lifeless as Scar rules through fear while refusing to accept responsibility for the kingdom's decline. Scar repeatedly pressures Sarabi to become his queen in an effort to legitimize his reign, but she steadfastly rejects him, remaining loyal to Mufasa's memory despite Scar's increasingly hostile behavior. Years later, the now-adult Nala leaves the Pride Lands in search of help after Scar refuses to address the kingdom's worsening famine. While hunting in the jungle, she unexpectedly encounters Simba after he rescues Timon and Pumbaa from her attack. Their joyful reunion rekindles their childhood friendship, which soon blossoms into romance. Nala is shocked to discover that Simba is alive and pleads with him to return home, explaining that the Pride Lands are dying under Scar's oppressive rule and that the Pride desperately needs its rightful king. However, still haunted by guilt over Mufasa's death and convinced that he is unworthy of the throne, Simba angrily refuses and retreats into the wilderness. There he encounters Rafiki, who reveals that Mufasa's spirit has never truly left him because the wisdom and courage of a great king continue through his descendants. Rafiki leads Simba to a reflective pool where he realizes that his father's legacy lies within himself. Moments later, the spirit of Mufasa appears among the stars and reminds Simba that he has forgotten who he truly is. Declaring that Simba is his son and the one true king, Mufasa urges him to reclaim his rightful place and restore balance to the circle of life. Inspired by his father's words and finally overcoming the guilt that has haunted him for years, Simba accepts his destiny and sets out for home, accompanied by Nala, Timon, Pumbaa, and Rafiki. Upon returning to the Pride Lands, Simba is horrified to find the once vibrant kingdom reduced to a barren wasteland populated by starving animals and ruled through fear. With Rafiki creating a diversion, Simba and his companions infiltrate Pride Rock, where Simba confronts Scar before the assembled Pride. Scar publicly blames Simba for Mufasa's death and manipulates him into confessing his supposed responsibility. Cornered at the edge of Pride Rock during a fierce confrontation, Simba finally finds the courage to challenge his uncle. Scar then privately admits that he was the one who murdered Mufasa before attempting to kill Simba as well. Enraged, Simba fights back and forces Scar to reveal the truth before the Pride. As Scar's treachery is exposed, an intense battle erupts between Simba's allies and the hyenas. Nala, Sarabi, Rafiki, Timon, Pumbaa, and the lionesses battle the hyena army while lightning ignites a massive wildfire across Pride Rock. Defeated, Scar desperately attempts to escape by blaming all of his crimes on the hyenas, claiming they were responsible for everything. Although Simba overpowers him, he chooses mercy, ordering Scar to leave the Pride Lands forever rather than kill him. Scar pretends to surrender but suddenly launches a final surprise attack. After a brutal struggle atop Pride Rock, Simba throws Scar from the summit. Scar survives the fall, but the hyenas, having overheard him betray and scapegoat aim a turn against their former leader and fatally maul him, bringing his reign of terror to a violent end. With Scar and the hyenas defeated, rain begins to fall, extinguishing the wildfire and symbolizing the restoration of balance to the kingdom. Simba ascends Pride Rock and releases a triumphant roar that echoes across the Pride Lands, signaling the return of the rightful king. As the land gradually recovers and life flourishes once more, Simba and Nala rule together as king and queen, restoring peace, harmony, and prosperity throughout the kingdom. In the film's closing moments, mirroring its unforgettable opening, Rafiki presents Simba and Nala's newborn cub atop Pride Rock before the assembled animals, celebrating the birth of a new generation and affirming that the circle of life continues unbroken. The film is led by an acclaimed ensemble voice cast headed by Donald Glover as Simba, the central protagonist and rightful heir to the Pride Lands. Simba is the son of King Mufasa and Queen Sarabi, whose joyful childhood is abruptly shattered after the murder of his father, forcing him into self-imposed exile before he eventually embraces his destiny as king. Glover's interpretation of Simba places greater emphasis on the character's emotional vulnerability, psychological trauma, and gradual maturation than the original 1994 animated film. Rather than portraying Simba's journey simply as a coming-of-age adventure, the remake explores the lasting emotional consequences of grief, survivor's guilt, self-doubt, and identity. Glover explained that director Jon Favreau wanted the audience to experience Simba's complete transformation from an innocent child into a mature leader, allowing viewers to understand how the loss of Mufasa fundamentally shapes every stage of his development. His performance reflects Simba's evolution from a playful, impulsive cub into a reluctant exile burdened by guilt before ultimately emerging as a compassionate, courageous, and selfless king who accepts both his responsibilities and his place within the circle of life. J.D. McCrary voices young Simba, delivering a performance that captures the cub's innocence, adventurous curiosity, boundless optimism, playful confidence, and unconditional admiration for his father. McCrary's energetic portrayal establishes the emotional foundation for Simba's later transformation by highlighting the joy and security that define his early life before tragedy strikes. Seth Rogen voices Pama, the warm-hearted and endlessly optimistic warthog who becomes one of Simba's closest friends, adoptive guardians, and lifelong companions after discovering the exhausted cub alone in the desert. Alongside Timon, Pama introduces Simba to the carefree philosophy of Hakuna Matata, encouraging him to let go of his painful memories and live without fear, guilt, or responsibility. While often serving as comic relief, Pama is also portrayed as deeply compassionate, loyal, and emotionally supportive, providing Simba with the sense of family he loses after leaving the Pride Lands. Rogen explained that Pama was one of the few characters he immediately believed suited both his natural personality and comedic instincts, allowing him to deliver a performance that balanced humor with genuine warmth. Director Jon Favreau intentionally had Rogen and Billy Eichner record many of their scenes together instead of separately, encouraging extensive improvisation that resulted in a more natural friendships between Timon and Pama and introduced numerous original comedic exchanges absent from the 1994 film. Rogen's casting was particularly significant because it marked the first time the character had not been voiced by Ernie Sabella, who had portrayed Pama in virtually every major Disney production featuring the character since the original animated classic. Chiwetel Ejiofor voices Scar, the manipulative younger brother of Mufasa and the film's primary antagonist. Once next in line for the throne, Scar becomes consumed by jealousy after Simba's birth removes him from the royal succession. Driven by resentment, wounded pride, and an obsessive desire for power, Scar secretly conspires with the hyenas to murder both Mufasa and Simba in order to claim the throne for himself. Ejiofor intentionally departed from the theatrical, sarcastic interpretation made famous by Jeremy Irons, instead portraying Scar as a psychologically damaged and emotionally fractured individual whose cruelty stems from years of bitterness, insecurity, and narcissism. He described Scar as someone possessed by his own ego and ambition, capable of shifting instantly from calm persuasion to shocking violence, making him unpredictable and deeply unsettling. Ejiofor also emphasized the tragic collapse of Scar's relationship with Mufasa, portraying two brothers whose bond has been destroyed by envy and ideological conflict. Jon Favreau praised Ejiofor's Shakespearean background, noting that his sophisticated vocal delivery, dramatic intensity, and commanding presence transformed Scar into a grounded yet terrifying villain while preserving the character's regal intelligence and theatrical menace. The result is a version of Scar that is less flamboyant but considerably darker, more calculating, and psychologically realistic than his animated counterpart. Alfre Woodard voices Queen Sarabi, Mufasa's devoted mate, Simba's protective mother, and the respected leader of the Pride Lands lioness hunting party. Sarabi is portrayed as one of the kingdom's strongest, wisest, and most resilient leaders, serving as a stabilizing force before and after Mufasa's death. Following Scar's rise to power, she refuses to submit to his authority despite enduring years of famine, oppression, and intimidation. Scar repeatedly attempts to persuade Sarabi to become his queen in order to legitimize his rule, but she steadfastly rejects every proposal, remaining loyal to Mufasa's memory and believing that Simba may still be alive. Woodard's performance highlights Sarabi's quiet dignity, emotional strength, maternal compassion, and unwavering courage, portraying her as a queen who protects her pride not only through physical leadership but also through hope, resilience, and moral conviction during the kingdom's darkest years. Billy Eichner voices Timon, the outspoken, fast-talking Meerkat whose sharp wit, sarcasm, and irreverent humor make him one of the film's primary comedic characters. Together with Pama, Timon rescues Simba, welcomes him into the jungle oasis, and becomes both mentor and surrogate family during Simba's years in exile. Eichner described Timon as physically one of the smallest characters in the story but emotionally one of its biggest personalities, possessing enormous confidence, relentless sarcasm, and an exaggerated sense of self-importance that frequently leads to humorous situations. Beyond the comedy, Eichner sought to reveal Timon's emotional vulnerability during quieter scenes, particularly through musical moments such as Can You Feel the Love Tonight, demonstrating that beneath his constant jokes lies a genuinely caring friend who fears losing the family he has built. Eichner also acknowledged bringing what he described as a subtle gay sensibility to the performance, adding another layer of charm and individuality without fundamentally altering the beloved character's established personality. John Connie voices Rafiki, the wise mandrill who serves as the royal shaman, spiritual advisor, healer, philosopher, and trusted guardian of the Pride Lands royal family. Rafiki functions as the film's moral compass, guiding both Mufasa and Simba through moments of uncertainty while preserving the traditions of the Circle of Life. His wisdom is expressed not through lengthy speeches but through symbolic lessons, humor, ritual, and quiet observation. Connie compared Rafiki to an elderly grandfather whose guidance comes from experience, patience, and unconditional love rather than authority. His portrayal emphasizes Rafiki's spirituality, serenity, compassion, and enduring loyalty to Mufasa's bloodline, culminating in his pivotal role in helping Simba reconnect with his father's memory and rediscover his identity as the rightful king. John Oliver voices Zazu, the loyal red-billed hornbill who faithfully serves as royal majordomo, advisor, messenger, and administrator to the monarchs of the Pride Lands. Zazu's devotion to duty, organization, and protocol provides both comic relief and emotional stability throughout the story. Despite his anxious personality, Zazu consistently demonstrates remarkable courage, openly opposing Scar's rule even while imprisoned and continuing to support the royal family regardless of personal risk. Oliver explained that Zazu is fundamentally a character who believes structure and order are essential for civilization, suggesting that the bird's formal mannerisms and restrained personality reflect a distinctly British temperament that often creates humorous contrasts with the emotional chaos unfolding around him. Beyond Kate copyright Knowles Carter voices Nala, Simba's fearless childhood companion, lifelong friend, eventual mate, and future queen of the Pride Lands. Unlike the original animated film, the 2019 adaptation substantially expands Nala's role, presenting her as a proactive, resourceful, and independent heroine whose actions directly influence the course of the story. Rather than waiting passively for Simba's return, Nala courageously leaves the starving Pride Lands to search for help after realizing Scar's leadership has doomed the kingdom. Her determination ultimately leads to her reunion with Simba, whom she passionately urges to confront his past and reclaim his birthright. Jon Favreau deliberately increased Nala's narrative importance to create a stronger female protagonist and believed Beyond Kate copyright has international stature, emotional depth, commanding screen presence, and extraordinary vocal abilities made her the ideal performer. In addition to voicing Nala, Bianca Tilda Copyright performed the original song Spirit, one of the film's emotional highlights, and curated and produced the companion album The Lion King, The Gift, celebrating African culture, music, storytelling, and artistic collaboration through an original collection of songs inspired by the film. Shahadi Wright Joseph voices young Nala, reprising the role she had previously performed in Disney's acclaimed Broadway production of The Lion King. Joseph portrays the cub version of Nala as fearless, intelligent, adventurous, compassionate, and every bit as bold as Simba himself. Her performance emphasizes Nala's natural leadership qualities from an early age, illustrating why she eventually becomes both Simba's equal and one of the Pride Land's strongest defenders. Joseph stated that she admired Nala because the character inspires young audiences through her courage, confidence, determination, and willingness to challenge injustice regardless of the consequences. James Earl Jones reprises his iconic role as King Mufasa, the wise and noble ruler of the Pride Lands, devoted father to Simba, beloved mate of Sarabi, and one of Disney's most enduring and recognizable characters. Jones is the only principal actor from the original 1994 animated film to return in the same role, creating a direct emotional connection between the original classic and its photorealistic remake. Mufasa embodies the ideals of wisdom, compassion, courage, humility, and selfless leadership, dedicating himself to teaching Simba the responsibilities of kingship and the importance of protecting every creature within the circle of life. His heroic sacrifice during the wildebeest stampede becomes the defining tragedy of the story, while his continued spiritual guidance after death serves as the emotional foundation of Simba's redemption. Favreau retained much of Jones' original dialogue because he believed no other actor could replicate the authority, warmth, and gravitas of his unmistakable voice. Chiwetel Ejiofor described Jones' vocal performance as a once-in-a-generation achievement, while Favreau observed that the natural aging of Jones' voice added even greater depth, experience, and regal dignity to Mufasa's character. Following Jones' passing in 2024, this performance stands as his final portrayal of Mufasa and remains one of the most celebrated vocal performances in Disney history. Florence Kasumba, Keegan-Michael Key, and Eric Andre Tilde copyright voice Shenzi, Kamari, and Azizi, respectively, the leaders of the spotted hyena clan that allies with Scar in exchange for unrestricted access to the Pride Land's hunting grounds. While Shenzi originated in the 1994 film, Kamari and Azizi replaced the original characters Banzai and Dead, receiving new identities and significantly reworked personalities designed to complement the remake's more grounded and realistic tone. Favreau believed the exaggerated slapstick comedy associated with the original hyenas would undermine the realism of the new adaptation, so the trio was reimagined as disciplined predators, military-like enforcers, and genuinely dangerous adversaries. Kasumba described the contrast by explaining that whereas the original hyenas often functioned as comic relief, these new incarnations were intended to be intimidating, ruthless, and capable of authentic violence. Shenzi, in particular, is portrayed as a calculating strategist and respected matriarch who commands the loyalty of her clan while maintaining an uneasy alliance with Scar. Kasumba also became one of the few cast members to portray the same character in multiple languages by reprising the role in the German-language version of the film. The supporting cast further enriches the world of the Pride Lands and the Jungle Oasis. Penny Johnson-Gerald voices Sarafina, Nala's mother and one of the senior lionesses who remains loyal to Sarabi throughout Scar's reign. Amy Sedaris voices an inquisitive elephant shrew, Chance the Rapper voices a playful bush baby, Josh McCrary voices a cheerful Afal, and Phil Lamar voices an impala, all serving as colorful inhabitants of the Jungle Oasis who contribute humor and additional world-building during Simba's years with Timon and Pumbaa. J. Lee also appears as one of Scar's hyenas during the climactic battle. Collectively, the ensemble combines Academy Award nominees, Emmy winners, Grammy-winning musicians, acclaimed Broadway performers, internationally recognized comedians, and veteran voice actors, resulting in one of the most accomplished and star-studded voice casts ever assembled for a Disney feature film. Their performances, together with the film's groundbreaking visual effects, helped reintroduce one of Disney's most beloved stories to a new generation of audiences while honoring the enduring legacy of the 1994 animated classic. Development of The Lion King began as part of Walt Disney Pictures' long-term strategy to reimagine many of its most beloved animated classics using contemporary filmmaking techniques and cutting-edge visual effects technology. Following the remarkable commercial and critical success of Disney's live-action adaptations including Maleficent, 2014, Cinderella, 2015, and especially Jon Favreau's The Jungle Book, 2016, which earned widespread acclaim for its revolutionary use of photorealistic computer-generated imagery and virtual production. Disney officially announced on September 28, 2016, that Favreau would direct a new adaptation of the studio's 1994 animated masterpiece The Lion King. The announcement generated immediate excitement throughout the film industry, as The Lion King had long been regarded as one of Disney's most iconic and culturally influential animated films. Disney described the project as another technologically groundbreaking production that would build upon the innovative filmmaking techniques pioneered on The Jungle Book while remaining faithful to the emotional core, timeless themes, memorable characters, and Academy Award-winning musical legacy of the original film. The studio also confirmed that the remake would retain the classic songs composed by Elton John and Tim Rice, while introducing the beloved story to a new generation through unprecedented visual realism. Shortly afterward, on October 13, 2016, Disney hired acclaimed screenwriter Jeff Nathanson to write the screenplay. Nathanson, known for his work on films such as Catch Me If You Can, 2002, The Terminal, 2004, and Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, 2017, was tasked with adapting one of Disney's most treasured stories for a modern audience. Rather than dramatically reinventing the narrative, Nathanson focused on preserving the structure and emotional resonance of the original screenplay while refining dialogue, strengthening character relationships, expanding several dramatic moments, and providing greater psychological depth to the central characters. Particular attention was devoted to Simba's emotional journey from childhood innocence through trauma and eventual redemption, while supporting characters such as Nala, Sarabi, and Scar were given additional characterization that reflected the film's more grounded and realistic tone. Nathanson worked closely with Favreau throughout development to ensure that every creative decision honored the spirit of the 1994 film while allowing the remake to stand as its own cinematic achievement. During interviews conducted in November 2016, Favreau revealed that the virtual cinematography technology first developed for The Jungle Book would be expanded to an unprecedented degree for The Lion King. Rather than simply creating another visually impressive computer-generated film, Favreau envisioned a production that would fundamentally change how digitally created movies could be filmed. His goal was to eliminate the traditional separation between animation and live-action filmmaking by allowing directors, cinematographers, camera operators, and production designers to work inside immersive three-dimensional virtual environments. Using advanced virtual reality headsets, motion tracking systems, and custom-built digital camera rigs, the filmmakers were able to physically move through computer-generated landscapes, scout locations, determine camera angles, select lenses, block scenes, and capture shots exactly as they would on a conventional live-action film set. This innovative workflow gave the production an unprecedented level of spontaneity and cinematic authenticity, allowing Favreau to compose shots naturally instead of relying entirely on predetermined animation. He explained that he wanted audiences to experience the story as though they were watching a breathtaking wildlife documentary filmed across the African savanna rather than a traditional animated feature. Despite being widely referred to in the media as a live-action remake, Favreau consistently clarified that The Lion King was not technically a live-action film but rather a production created almost entirely through photorealistic computer-generated animation. Unlike traditional live-action filmmaking, nearly every element visible on screen including the lions, hyenas, elephants, giraffes, birds, insects, vegetation, landscapes, skies, lighting, dust, weather effects, and natural environments was digitally created by teams of visual effects artists. The only genuine live-action footage appearing in the finished film is the opening sunrise shot, which serves as the film's first image before transitioning entirely into CGI. Disney itself initially avoided describing the project as live-action, instead emphasizing that it followed the same technologically groundbreaking approach established by The Jungle Book, by combining sophisticated computer-generated imagery, physically based rendering, advanced fur simulation, performance-driven facial animation, volumetric lighting, realistic environmental effects, and virtual production technology. The Lion King became one of the most ambitious digital filmmaking projects ever attempted. The production challenged conventional definitions of both animation and live-action cinema, becoming a landmark achievement in the evolution of visual effects and virtual filmmaking. Although the remake remains remarkably faithful to the plot of the 1994 animated feature, Favreau deliberately sought inspiration from Disney's internationally acclaimed Broadway adaptation, directed by Julie Taymor, which had expanded several characters and introduced richer, emotional and thematic material. Favreau admired the Broadway production's ability to deepen the story without sacrificing its universal appeal, and he incorporated some of those ideas into the remake. One of the most significant creative decisions involved expanding the roles of Nala and Sarabi, giving both characters considerably greater agency, emotional complexity, and narrative importance. Nala was reimagined as a proactive heroine who independently leaves the Pride Lands in search of help after witnessing the devastation caused by Scar's reign, making her instrumental in Simba's eventual return. Sarabi likewise received additional scenes emphasizing her courage, leadership, and resistance to Scar's tyranny, portraying her as an active protector of the Pride rather than a passive supporting character. Favreau and Nathanson also introduced subtle additions to family relationships, character interactions, and emotional dialogue, allowing the story to explore themes of grief, responsibility, leadership, legacy, forgiveness, and identity in greater depth while preserving the essential narrative structure that audiences had cherished for decades. Although many iconic scenes closely resembled their animated counterparts, Favreau emphasized that his goal was not merely to recreate the original frame by frame, but to reinterpret it through realism, cinematic immersion, and emotional authenticity. One of Favreau's primary artistic goals throughout development was to make The Lion King resemble a BBC wildlife documentary, combining the visual authenticity of nature filmmaking with the emotional storytelling of a Disney musical. To accomplish this ambitious vision, the filmmakers conducted extensive research into African wildlife, ecosystems, geography, climate, and natural lighting. Production artists, animators, and visual effects specialists studied hundreds of hours of wildlife documentaries and photographic reference material while consulting zoological experts to understand how lions, warthogs, meerkats, mandrills, hornbills, hyenas, elephants, zebras, wildebeests, giraffes, rhinoceroses, and numerous other species naturally moved, hunted, communicated, and interacted with one another. Every animal was modeled using anatomically accurate skeletal structures, muscle systems, fur simulations, and realistic movement patterns to ensure the creatures behaved convincingly while still conveying the emotions necessary for the story. Likewise, the environments including Pride Rock, the elephant graveyard, lush jungle oasis, expansive savannas, rugged mountains, deserts, forests, rivers, and dramatic African skies were meticulously crafted using realistic geological formations, authentic vegetation, physically accurate atmospheric effects, and natural lighting inspired by real African landscapes. This extraordinary attention to environmental realism allowed the filmmakers to create a world that felt simultaneously documentary-like and mythic, immersing audiences in a version of the Pride Lands unlike anything previously seen in animation. Beyond its technological innovations, the film also represented an important personal milestone for several members of the creative team. Tragically, acclaimed film editor Mark Lee Volsey, a longtime collaborator of Favreau who had previously edited The Jungle Book along with numerous acclaimed Hollywood productions, passed away unexpectedly in September 2018 while The Lion King was still in post-production. Livosi's contributions had played a significant role in shaping the pacing, emotional rhythm, and narrative structure of the film before his death. Following his passing, the editing duties were completed by the remaining editorial team while preserving Livosi's creative vision. In recognition of his outstanding contributions to the production and his distinguished career in cinema, The Lion King was dedicated to his memory, making the film his final credited work and serving as a lasting tribute to one of Hollywood's most respected film editors. His dedication appears at the conclusion of the film, honoring both his creative legacy and his invaluable role in bringing Disney's ambitious reimagining of The Lion King to the screen. Casting for The Lion King was carried out over the course of 2017, with director Jon Favreau assembling a star-studded ensemble that combined returning performers from the original 1994 animated film with acclaimed actors, comedians, musicians, and Broadway performers. Favreau sought to cast performers who could bring emotional authenticity and dramatic depth to the film's photorealistic presentation while honoring the legacy of Disney's animated classic. Because the film relied entirely on voice performances rather than traditional live-action acting, the casting process emphasized vocal range, emotional expressiveness, and the ability to create memorable performances despite the realistic appearance of the animal characters. Favreau also aimed to assemble a cast whose performances would reflect the film's African setting more authentically while maintaining the timeless appeal of the original story. One of the earliest major casting announcements came in mid-February 2017, when Donald Glover was officially cast as the adult Simba, the young lion prince destined to become king of the Pride Lands. At the time, Glover was enjoying widespread acclaim as an actor, writer, musician, and creator of the award-winning television series Atlanta, making him one of Hollywood's most sought-after performers. Favreau believed Glover possessed the emotional range necessary to portray Simba's complete journey from an adventurous and optimistic young lion through years of grief, guilt, self-doubt, and exile before ultimately embracing his destiny as king. Glover later explained that Favreau wanted audiences to experience Simba's transformation more intimately than in the original film, placing greater emphasis on the psychological consequences of losing his father and the difficult process of growing into adulthood. Alongside Glover's casting, Disney confirmed that legendary actor James Earl Jones would reprise his iconic role as King Mufasa, making him the only principal cast member from the 1994 animated feature to return in the same role. Favreau regarded Jones' return as essential to preserving the emotional continuity between the original film and the remake, describing his unmistakable voice as an irreplaceable part of The Lion King's legacy. Jones ultimately delivered his final performance as Mufasa before his death in 2024. Giving the remake additional historical significance within his distinguished career. Casting continued in April 2017, when acclaimed comedians Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen were announced as the voices of Timon and Pumbaa, replacing Nathan Lane and Ernie Sabella from the original film. Favreau intentionally paired Eichner and Rogen because he believed their contrasting comedic styles would produce a fresh interpretation of Disney's beloved comic duo. Unlike most animated productions, where actors often record separately, Favreau encouraged Eichner and Rogen to perform many of their scenes together, allowing them to improvise dialogue, interrupt one another naturally, and develop genuine chemistry throughout the recording sessions. Many of their humorous exchanges were created spontaneously during production, giving Timon and Pumbaa a more conversational and contemporary dynamic while preserving the characters' essential personalities and friendship. In July 2017, British comedian, television host, and writer John Oliver joined the cast as Zazu, the loyal hornbill who serves as royal majordomo and trusted advisor to the kings of the Pride Lands. Oliver's distinctive British voice, dry wit, and understated comedic delivery made him a natural successor to Rowan Atkinson, who had voiced the character in the original animated film. Oliver later described Zizou as a character whose devotion to structure, order, and proper protocol reflected a particularly British sensibility, making him both an effective administrator and a source of subtle humor throughout the story. Disney expanded the cast further in August 2017, announcing Academy Award nominee Alfre Woodard as Queen Sarabi, Simba's mother and the courageous leader of the Pride Lands Lionesses, while internationally acclaimed South African actor John Connie was cast as Rafiki, the wise mandrill, spiritual guide, and royal advisor. Favreau viewed Connie's casting as particularly meaningful because of his South African heritage, believing his natural voice and cultural background added authenticity to one of the film's most spiritually significant characters. Woodard, meanwhile, brought warmth, dignity, authority, and emotional strength to Sarabi, whose role was expanded considerably from the original film to portray her as a resilient leader who continues protecting the Pride during Scar's oppressive reign. Perhaps the most closely followed casting process involved Bianca copyright Knowles Carter, whom Favreau publicly identified in March 2017 as his first and only choice to portray Nala, Simba's childhood friend, future mate, and eventual queen of the Pride Lands. At the time, Bianca copyright's demanding international touring schedule made negotiations challenging, but Favreau and Disney expressed their willingness to adjust the production schedule in order to accommodate her availability. Favreau believed Bianca copyright's global popularity, commanding vocal presence, emotional depth, and musical talent made her uniquely suited to portraying an expanded version of Nala, whose role would be considerably larger than in the 1994 film. After months of speculation, Disney officially confirmed her casting on November 1, 2017, in a major announcement that generated enormous international media attention. Beyond voicing Nala, Bianca copyright also performed the original song Spirit, collaborated on portions of the film's soundtrack, and later produced and curated the companion album The Lion King, The Gift, inspired by the film's African setting and themes. The same November 1, 2017 announcement completed much of the remaining principal cast. Academy Award nominee Chiwetel Ejiofor was officially cast as Scar, replacing Jeremy Irons and bringing a darker, more psychologically grounded interpretation to the villainous lion. Favreau selected Ejiofor because of his extraordinary dramatic abilities and Shakespearean acting background, believing he could portray Scar as both intellectually calculating and emotionally unstable. The announcement also confirmed Florence Kasumba as Shanzi, Keegan-Michael Key as Kamari, and Eric Andre copyright as Azizi, the three leaders of the Spotted Hyena clan. Unlike the 1994 animated film, where the hyenas frequently served as comic relief, Favreau substantially reimagined them as disciplined, intimidating predators whose personalities better suited the remake's realistic tone. Shanzi remained from the original film, while Kamari and Azizi replaced Bunzai and Ed with newly developed personalities and revised characterizations. At the same time, Disney announced J.D. McCrary as the voice of young Simba and Shehadi Wright Joseph as young Nala. Joseph had previously portrayed young Nala in Disney's acclaimed Broadway production, making her transition naturally into the film adaptation. The supporting cast continued to grow throughout production. In November 2018, comedian and actress Amy Sedaris was announced as portraying an inquisitive elephant shrew, a new character created specifically for the remake. Additional supporting performers included Penny Johnson-Gerald as Sarafina, Nala's mother Chance the Rapper as a bush baby, Josh McCrary as a Gin-Afro, Phil Lolmar as an impala, and J. Lee as one of Scar's hyenas. Together, the cast represented an unusually diverse collection of Academy Award nominees, Emmy winners, Grammy-winning musicians, Broadway performers, internationally recognized comedians, and veteran voice actors. Favreau later explained that the film's predominantly black principal cast represented a meaningful and timely evolution of the original production, bringing greater cultural authenticity and resonance to a story inspired by African landscapes, wildlife, traditions, and mythology. Alongside the casting process, Disney assembled one of the most ambitious visual effects teams ever organized for a feature film. The film's groundbreaking digital imagery was created primarily by moving picture company MPC, the same visual effects studio responsible for Favreau's The Jungle Book. Overall visual effects supervision was led by Academy Award-winning visual effects supervisor Robert Legato, alongside Elliot Newman and Adam Valdez, all of whom had previously collaborated on technologically innovative productions. Rather than approaching the film as a conventional animated feature, the filmmakers developed a completely new virtual production pipeline that merged techniques traditionally associated with both animation and live-action filmmaking. According to Legato, the production relied heavily on advanced virtual reality tools, allowing filmmakers to enter fully digital environments and operate virtual cameras as though filming on physical locations. Virtual production supervisor Girish Balakrishnan further explained that the production incorporated sophisticated motion capture, virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, technologies to construct immersive digital sets in which every camera movement could be captured naturally. To support this revolutionary workflow, MPC collaborated closely with technology companies Magnapus and Unity Technologies to build a custom virtual filmmaking platform powered by the Unity game engine. This proprietary system allowed Favreau and his crew to scout locations, rehearse scenes, block performances, adjust lighting, and compose shots in real time inside a completely digital version of the African landscape. Instead of constructing physical sets, filmmakers explored expansive computer-generated environments through VR headsets while using specially designed handheld virtual cameras that behaved like real cinematography equipment. This approach enabled the production to capture natural camera movement, lens choices, framing, and even subtle handheld imperfections that traditionally characterize live-action filmmaking. Despite every element existing entirely inside a computer, MPC ultimately created all 1,490 visual effects shots featured in the finished film, making it one of the largest and most technically demanding visual effects projects ever undertaken. Every animal appearing on screen was first designed using extensive artistic studies, anatomical references, wildlife photography, and high-resolution scans of real African species. Character models were then built with highly detailed digital skeletons, muscle systems, skin, fur, textures, and facial structures before undergoing months of refinement. Unlike motion capture productions that directly translate actor performances into animated characters, the animals in The Lion King were hand-animated by teams of animators who studied countless hours of wildlife reference footage. Every movement, including walking, running, breathing, blinking, muscle contractions, ear movement, tail motion, eye focus, facial expressions, and subtle behavioral cues, was carefully animated for more than 30 different animal species, ensuring that each creature moved as authentically as possible while still conveying the emotional requirements of the story. The film's environments were likewise created entirely through CGI using thousands of high-resolution reference photographs, drone footage, satellite imagery, and extensive studies of African geography. Pride Rock, the elephant graveyard, lush jungles, deserts, rivers, grasslands, forests, and mountainous landscapes were digitally constructed with extraordinary attention to geological accuracy, vegetation, atmospheric conditions, and natural lighting. Complex visual effects such as water, dust, smoke, fire, wind, clouds, and weather simulations were generated using advanced physics-based simulation systems integrated with the virtual production environment. These digital worlds could then be explored and photographed using VR technology, allowing filmmakers to build scenes organically rather than assembling them entirely during post-production. To further enhance realism, the production incorporated artificial intelligence technologies that assisted virtual animals in behaving more naturally inside digital environments. Rather than manually animating every interaction from scratch, AI-driven behavioral systems helped simulate instinctive animal movement, environmental awareness, and group behavior, allowing herds, flocks, and individual creatures to react more realistically to their surroundings. New software developed specifically for the production also enabled the filmmakers to recreate the subtle imperfections of handheld cinematography, including slight camera shake, natural operator movement, and spontaneous framing adjustments. giving many scenes the appearance of being filmed by wildlife documentarians rather than generated by computers. Reflecting on the unprecedented production process, Sean Bailey, president of production for Walt Disney Studios, observed that The Lion King represented an entirely new form of filmmaking that could no longer be accurately classified as either animation or live action. Instead, he described it as a technological evolution of the techniques pioneered on The Jungle Book, combining elements from both filmmaking traditions into a new cinematic medium. This philosophy ultimately became one of the defining aspects of the film, whose groundbreaking production methods pushed the boundaries of virtual filmmaking and digital visual effects. Remarkably, despite the film's extensive reliance on CGI, the opening sunrise that begins the iconic Circle of Life sequence remains the only non-animated shot in the entire feature, making every other image seen throughout the film a product of sophisticated computer-generated artistry and virtual cinematography. Music played a central role in the creative vision of The Lion King, 2019, with the filmmakers seeking to preserve the timeless musical legacy of Disney's 1994 animated classic while introducing new material that reflected the remake's more expansive scope and contemporary artistic influences. To achieve this balance, Disney reunited several of the principal creative talents behind the original film, including Academy Award-winning composer Hans Zimmer, legendary singer-songwriter Elton John, and acclaimed lyricist Tim Rice. Their return ensured that the remake would retain the emotional power of its predecessor's iconic score and songs while benefiting from newly composed music, updated arrangements, and modern production techniques. The film's soundtrack ultimately blended orchestral compositions, classic Disney musical numbers, African musical influences, and newly written songs, creating one of the most ambitious musical productions in Disney's modern live-action remake series. Academy Award-winning composer Hans Zimmer, who had composed the unforgettable score for the 1994 animated film, returned to create the orchestral score for the remake. Zimmer approached the project not as a complete reinvention but as an opportunity to revisit and expand one of the most celebrated works of his career using contemporary recording technology and a larger orchestral palette. Rather than simply reproducing his earlier compositions, Zimmer re-recorded and re-orchestrated many of the original musical themes while composing additional material that reflected the remake's more realistic visual style and expanded dramatic sequences. His score once again incorporated powerful orchestral arrangements, traditional African rhythms, percussion, sweeping choral passages, and emotional leitmotifs associated with characters such as Simba, Mufasa, and Scar. The music was designed to complement the film's photorealistic imagery while preserving the emotional grandeur and spiritual resonance that had defined the original soundtrack. Zimmer also collaborated with the award-winning musician and producer Pharrell Williams, who served as a musical collaborator during the production, contributing creative input that helped bridge the classic score with modern musical sensibilities. Legendary singer-songwriter Elton John also returned to the franchise, revisiting the songs he had originally composed for the 1994 animated classic alongside longtime lyricist Tim Rice. Together, John and Rice worked to update and refine the beloved musical numbers while preserving the melodies and lyrics that had become synonymous with The Lion King. The filmmakers sought to respect audiences' deep emotional connection to songs such as Circle of Life, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, Be Prepared, Hakuna Matata, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight, while adapting the arrangements to suit the remake's more grounded and cinematic presentation. Several songs were re-recorded with the new voice cast, incorporating fresh vocal performances while maintaining the musical identity of the original compositions. Elton John additionally worked closely with the production to ensure that the updated soundtrack honored the spirit of the 1994 film while appealing to contemporary audiences. During the film's early development, Disney also announced that Elton John, Tim Rice, and Beyonce copyright Knowles Carter would collaborate on creating an entirely new original song specifically for the film. The collaboration generated considerable anticipation due to the combined musical talents of the three artists. Beyonce copyright also participated in discussions regarding the modernization and expansion of the soundtrack, contributing creative ideas as the musical direction evolved. However, Despite the initial plans, the collaborative song between John and Beyonce copyright was ultimately never completed for inclusion in the final film. Elton John later confirmed that the project did not come together as originally envisioned, and the unreleased composition was omitted from both the soundtrack album and the finished motion picture. Instead, John and Rice composed an entirely new original song titled Never Too Late, which was written specifically for the film's closing credits. Performed by Elton John, the inspirational ballad serves as a thematic reflection on the film's central ideas of redemption, hope, destiny, and personal growth. Featuring lyrics by Tim Rice and music by John, the song combines the emotional storytelling associated with the original film with a contemporary pop orchestral arrangement. Never Too Late was widely praised for capturing the spirit of The Lion King while standing as an original composition distinct from the classic songs audiences already knew. The song later received significant awards recognition, earning nominations for Best Original Song at the 77th Golden Globe Awards, 25th Critics' Choice Awards, and the 62nd Grammy Awards, further continuing the franchise's long tradition of acclaimed original music. One of the remake's most significant new musical additions was Spirit, an original song performed by Beyonce copyright Knowles Carter. Written by Beyonce copyright alongside Ilyas Almanzada and Labyrinth, the song was conceived as an anthem celebrating identity, heritage, resilience, and destiny while complementing Simba's emotional journey. Rather than serving solely as an end-credit track, Spirit appears within the film itself during Simba and Nala's return to the Pride Lands, enhancing one of the story's most inspirational moments. The song combines orchestral elements with contemporary pop production and strong African musical influences, showcasing Beyonce copyright's powerful vocal performance while reinforcing the film's themes of courage and self-discovery. Released on July 9, 2019, as the lead single from the official motion picture soundtrack, Spirit became the centerpiece of Disney's global marketing campaign and received widespread critical acclaim for its emotional impact, vocal performance, and production quality. It also earned nominations for Best Original Song at both the 77th Golden Globe Awards and the 25th Critics' Choice Awards. In addition to its newly written material, the film retained nearly all of the iconic songs from the 1994 animated classic. New performances of Circle of Life, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, Be Prepared, Hakuna Matata, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight were recorded by the remake's cast, with updated orchestrations designed to blend seamlessly with the film's realistic visual style. The soundtrack also includes a new rendition of The Lion Sleeps Tonight, the internationally famous song originally popularized by the Tokens, performed during Simba's years living with Timon and Pumbaa. Additionally, the remake incorporates He Lives in You, a song that originally debuted on Disney's 1995 album Rhythm of the Pride Lands before becoming one of the signature musical numbers in the internationally acclaimed Broadway adaptation of The Lion King. Its inclusion further strengthened the musical connections between the original animated film, the Broadway production, and the 2019 remake. The official motion picture soundtrack, featuring Hans Zimmer's complete orchestral score together with the songs composed by Elton John and Tim Rice, was released digitally on July 11, 2019, ahead of the film's theatrical debut, before receiving a physical release on July 19, 2019. The same day the film opened in cinemas worldwide. The album showcased newly recorded performances by the film's cast alongside Zimmer's reimagined score, allowing audiences to experience both the nostalgic music of the original film and its newly composed additions in a single collection. The soundtrack received positive reviews from critics, who praised Zimmer's updated orchestral work, the powerful vocal performances, and the successful balance between honoring the original music and introducing fresh material. Beyond the official soundtrack, Beyonce copyright Knowles Carter produced and curated a companion album titled The Lion King, The Gift, which was released worldwide on July 19, 2019, alongside the film's theatrical premiere. Conceived as a musical companion rather than a traditional soundtrack, the album was inspired by the story, themes, and African setting of The Lion King. Beyonce copyright served as executive producer, assembling an international roster of artists from Africa, Europe, and North America to celebrate African music, culture, storytelling, and artistic traditions. The album incorporates elements of Afrobeats, R&B, hip-hop, gospel, pop, and traditional African music while exploring themes of family, identity, legacy, spirituality, love, and self-discovery. It features Spirit alongside numerous original songs performed by Beyonce copyright and an array of internationally acclaimed artists, including collaborations with African musicians whose contributions highlighted the cultural influences that inspired The Lion King. Widely praised for its artistic ambition and celebration of African creativity, The Lion King, The Gift became one of the most acclaimed companion albums ever produced for a Disney film and further expanded the musical legacy of the franchise beyond the motion picture itself. Disney launched an extensive global marketing campaign for The Lion King, 2019, positioning the film as one of the studio's most significant theatrical releases of the year and one of the centerpiece entries in its live-action remake initiative. The campaign combined traditional advertising with high-profile television events, digital marketing, social media promotions, exclusive previews, music releases, and premium format presentations to build anticipation among both longtime fans of the 1994 animated classic and a new generation of moviegoers, emphasizing the film's groundbreaking photorealistic visual effects, acclaimed voice cast, beloved musical legacy, and cutting-edge virtual production technology. Disney mounted one of its largest and most expensive promotional efforts ever, reportedly spending approximately $145 million on worldwide marketing and advertising. The film's marketing campaign officially began on November 22, 2018, when Disney debuted the first teaser trailer during the Dallas Cowboys' annual Thanksgiving Day NFL game, one of the most-watched television broadcasts in the United States. Simultaneously, the studio unveiled the film's first official teaser poster, featuring a majestic image of Pride Rock accompanied by the film's logo. Rather than introducing new story elements, the teaser faithfully recreated the iconic opening sequence from the original 1994 film, including Rafiki presenting the newborn Simba to the animals gathered beneath Pride Rock while the unforgettable opening notes of Circle of Life played in the background. The trailer concluded with the first look at the photorealistic versions of Simba and Mufasa overlooking the Pride lands, immediately highlighting the film's unprecedented visual realism. The teaser generated an overwhelmingly positive online response and quickly became a viral phenomenon across social media platforms. Within its first 24 hours, it accumulated approximately 224.6 million views worldwide, making it the second most viewed trailer in history during its first day of release at the time, demonstrating extraordinary audience interest and establishing The Lion King as one of the year's most anticipated films. Disney continued building momentum on February 24, 2019, during the 91st Academy Awards, where the studio premiered a special sneak peek featuring new footage from the film. The preview offered audiences another look at the Pride lands while showcasing John Connie's distinctive voice performance as Rafiki, further emphasizing the remake's faithful recreation of key moments from the original film. Accompanying the preview, Disney also released a new theatrical poster highlighting the film's realistic depiction of Pride Rock beneath a dramatic African sunset, reinforcing the movie's grand visual scale and epic tone. The campaign intensified on April 10, 2019, when Disney released the film's first full-length official trailer. Unlike the teaser, which focused primarily on nostalgia and visual spectacle, the new trailer introduced audiences to much of the principal cast and offered a broader overview of the story. It featured the first appearances of Scar, Zazu, Sarabi, Rafiki, Shansi, Kamari, Azizi, Timon, and Pama, while showcasing both the young and adult versions of Simba and Nala. The trailer highlighted several of the film's most iconic scenes, including Simba's presentation at Pride Rock, his childhood adventures, the elephant graveyard, the wildebeest stampede, the Hakuna Matata sequence, and the climactic return to the Pride Lands. The remarkable realism of the animals and environments became a major topic of discussion across entertainment media, with many viewers expressing amazement at how closely the computer-generated imagery resembled real wildlife photography. According to figures later revealed during Disney's 2019 Investor Day webcast, the trailer attracted approximately 174 million views worldwide within its first 24 hours, becoming one of the year's most successful online trailer launches. As the theatrical release approached, Disney expanded the campaign through a series of character-focused promotional materials. On May 30, 2019, the studio unveiled 11 individual character posters, each featuring a close-up portrait of one of the film's principal characters against a minimalist background. The posters highlighted Simba, Nala, Mufasa, Scar, Sarabi, Rafiki, Zazu, Timon, Pumbaa, Shansi, and one of the other major supporting characters, allowing audiences to closely examine the remarkable level of photorealistic detail achieved by the filmmakers. The minimalist designs emphasize the realism of the digital animals while reinforcing each character's importance within the story. Disney further promoted the film through a series of exclusive sneak peeks released during the summer of 2019. On June 3, 2019, the studio debuted a special preview featuring the first substantial dialogue from Beyond Tilde copyright Knowles Carter, Billy Eichner, and Seth Rogen as Nala, Timon, and Pumbaa, respectively. The footage offered audiences a better sense of the performances and chemistry between the characters while introducing the remake's updated comedic tone. Several weeks later, on June 20, 2019, Disney released another extended preview centered on one of the film's most beloved musical moments. The clip featured Donald Glover and Beyond Tilde copyright Knowles Carter performing Can You Feel the Love Tonight, while also including James Earl Jones' powerful voice as Mufasa, reminding audiences of the emotional connection between the remake and the original 1994 classic. The musical preview received widespread attention online, particularly because it showcased Beyond Tilde copyright's vocal performance and reunited audiences with Jones' iconic portrayal of Mufasa. To further emphasize the groundbreaking technology behind the production, Disney released an extensive behind-the-scenes featurette on July 2, 2019, just weeks before the film's theatrical debut. The featurette explored the innovative virtual production techniques used throughout the filmmaking process and included interviews with director Jon Favreau, members of the visual effects team, and several of the principal voice actors. It demonstrated how filmmakers used virtual reality headsets, digital cameras, real-time rendering technology, and immersive computer-generated environments to create the film, illustrating how scenes were filmed inside virtual landscapes despite every animal and environment being digitally constructed. Alongside the featurette, Disney released 7 new publicity stills featuring the voice actors standing face-to-face with their photorealistic animal counterparts, visually reinforcing the close relationships between the performers and the digitally animated characters they portrayed. Beyond trailers and promotional videos, Disney supported the film with an expansive worldwide advertising campaign that included television commercials, theatrical standees, outdoor billboards, magazine features, social media promotions, digital advertising, premium format theater promotions, merchandise tie-ins, soundtrack releases, and numerous interviews with the cast and filmmakers. Special attention was given to Beyond Tilde copyright Knowles Carter's original song Spirit, which became a major component of the film's international marketing strategy following its release as the soundtrack's lead single. Disney also coordinated promotional efforts with consumer products, publishing divisions, theme parks, and international licensing partners, resulting in a wide range of toys, apparel, books, collectibles, and branded merchandise that accompanied the film's theatrical release. Overall, Disney's marketing strategy proved highly successful in generating sustained global anticipation for The Lion King. The combination of nostalgia for the beloved 1994 animated classic, the star-powered voice cast, revolutionary photorealistic visuals, iconic musical numbers, and an aggressive worldwide promotional campaign helped establish the film as one of the most anticipated releases of 2019. With an estimated $145 million invested in global marketing, the campaign ranks among the largest promotional efforts ever undertaken for a Disney release and played a significant role in the film's eventual worldwide box office success, which exceeded $1.66 billion, making it one of the highest-grossing films in Disney's history. The Lion King emerged as one of the biggest commercial successes of 2019 and one of the highest-grossing films in Disney's history. Produced on an estimated budget of $260 million, the film became a worldwide box office phenomenon, ultimately grossing $543.6 million in the United States and Canada and $1.113 billion in international markets, for a worldwide total of $1.657 billion. Of that total, approximately $63 million was generated from IMAX screenings alone, making it one of the format's highest-grossing releases at the time. The film's remarkable financial performance demonstrated the enduring popularity of Disney's 1994 animated classic, the effectiveness of the studio's live-action remake strategy, and the immense global appeal of its photorealistic reimagining. Its success was driven by exceptionally strong attendance across North America, Europe, Asia, Latin America, and other major international markets, where the film consistently ranked at the top of the box office for several consecutive weeks. The film achieved an extraordinary worldwide opening weekend, debuting with approximately $446 million globally. At the time of its release, this represented the 9th largest global opening weekend in cinematic history and established a new record for the largest worldwide opening ever for an animated film. Surpassing the previous benchmark, the massive debut reflected months of anticipation generated by Disney's extensive global marketing campaign, the popularity of the original animated classic, and strong interest in the film's groundbreaking visual effects and all-star voice cast. The opening weekend also marked one of Disney's strongest worldwide launches, with particularly impressive performances in premium large-format theaters, including IMAX, Dolby Cinema, and REL 3D presentations. Following its record-breaking debut, The Lion King maintained exceptional momentum throughout its theatrical run, benefiting from strong audience turnout, repeat viewings, and limited competition in many international markets. The film crossed the prestigious $1 billion worldwide milestone on July 30, 2019, less than 2 weeks after its global theatrical release, becoming one of the fastest films ever to achieve the milestone. It subsequently joined Disney's growing collection of billion-dollar releases and further reinforced the studio's dominance at the worldwide box office during the late 2010s. Throughout its theatrical run, the film remained among the highest-grossing releases in numerous international territories, consistently attracting family audiences while also benefiting from nostalgia among viewers who had grown up with the original 1994 film. The film ultimately concluded its theatrical run with the worldwide gross of $1.657 billion, making it the second highest-grossing film of 2019, behind only Avengers: Endgame. At the time of its release, it also ranked as the 7th highest-grossing film in worldwide box office history, further cementing its status as one of the most commercially successful motion pictures ever produced. In addition, The Lion King became the highest-grossing remake of all time, surpassing every previous remake released by any studio, while also establishing itself as the highest-grossing musical film in cinema history, reflecting the enduring popularity of its iconic songs and broad international appeal. One of the film's most significant achievements was becoming the highest-grossing animated film of all time upon its release. Although Disney marketed the production as part of its live-action remake initiative, many industry organizations and box office analysts classified the film as animated because nearly every frame was created using photorealistic computer-generated imagery. As a result, The Lion King officially surpassed the previous record holder to become the world's highest-grossing animated feature. The film retained that distinction for more than 5 years, from August 2019 until September 2024, when Pixar's Inside Out 2 exceeded its worldwide total and claimed the record. Despite losing the top position, The Lion King remains one of the highest-grossing animated films ever released and continues to rank among the most commercially successful family films in cinema history. The film's financial success extended beyond theatrical ticket sales, according to financial analysis published by Deadline Hollywood, which estimates studio profitability by accounting for worldwide box office revenue, home entertainment sales, television licensing, streaming revenue, merchandising, and other ancillary income while subtracting production, marketing, distribution, and participation costs. The Lion King generated an estimated net profit of approximately $580 million. This extraordinary return on investment placed it among the most profitable films released in 2019 and further demonstrated the immense commercial value of Disney's strategy of reimagining its animated classics through large-scale, technologically innovative productions. Overall, The Lion King stands as one of the defining box office successes of the modern era. Its record-breaking opening weekend, rapid ascent past the $1 billion milestone, dominance across international markets, long-standing animated box office record, and exceptional profitability firmly established the film as one of Disney's greatest commercial triumphs. More than 5 years after its theatrical release, it remains one of the highest-grossing films of all time, one of the highest-grossing animated features ever produced, the highest-grossing musical film in history, and one of the studio's most financially successful releases. And The Lion King received mixed reviews from critics upon its release, with reviewers widely acknowledging its extraordinary technical accomplishments while expressing divided opinions about its artistic merits as a remake of Disney's 1994 animated classic. Critics overwhelmingly praised the film's groundbreaking photorealistic visual effects, state-of-the-art virtual production techniques, realistic animal animation, musical score, and several of the voice performances. However, many argued that its near shot-for-shot recreation of the original film, combined with the limited facial expressiveness of its photorealistic animal characters, resulted in a version that, despite its visual spectacle, lacked the emotional warmth, personality, and imaginative energy that had made the original one of Disney's most beloved animated features. While many reviewers admired the film as an astonishing technological achievement, others felt that its commitment to realism came at the expense of emotional storytelling, creating a remake that impressed visually more than it moved audiences emotionally. On the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 52% based on 437 reviews, with an average rating of 6/10. The site's critical consensus states, while it can take pride in its visual achievements, The Lion King is a by-the-numbers retelling that lacks the energy and heart that made the original so beloved, though for some fans that may just be enough. The score made The Lion King the highest-grossing film ever to receive a Rotten rating on the website, illustrating the remarkable contrast between its enormous commercial success and its comparatively lukewarm critical reception. On Metacritic, which assigns weighted average scores to professional reviews, the film received a score of 55 out of 100, based on 54 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. In contrast to the divided critical response, general audiences responded much more enthusiastically. Moviegoers surveyed by CinemaScore awarded the film a strong A grade on its A+ to F scale, while audiences polled by PostTrak gave it an average rating of 4 out of 5 stars, reflecting widespread audience satisfaction and helping explain the film's exceptional box office performance. Among the film's most universally praised aspects were its technical achievements. Critics consistently described the photorealistic computer-generated imagery as revolutionary, with many considering it one of the most impressive visual effects accomplishments ever achieved in cinema. The realistic depiction of African wildlife, breathtaking digital environments, sophisticated lighting, fur simulation, and seamless integration of virtual cinematography were frequently cited as major breakthroughs in digital filmmaking. Many reviewers acknowledged that director Jon Favreau and the visual effects teams had successfully blurred the line between animation and live-action filmmaking, creating imagery that often resembled a high-end wildlife documentary rather than a traditional animated feature. Even critics who were otherwise disappointed by the film generally agreed that its visual presentation represented a significant technological milestone and set new standards for computer-generated photorealism. At the same time, many reviewers argued that the pursuit of photorealism significantly diminished the emotional impact of the story, because real lions and other animals naturally display limited facial expressions. Numerous critics believed that the characters appeared emotionally restrained compared with their expressive hand-drawn counterparts from the 1994 film. As a result, several key dramatic scenes including Mufasa's death, Simba's grief, Scar's manipulation, and the emotional reunion between Simba and Nala were viewed as less emotionally powerful than in the original. Critics frequently observed that although the remake faithfully recreated many iconic scenes almost frame for frame, it often failed to capture the vibrant personality, theatrical energy, visual creativity, and emotional spontaneity that had defined the animated classic. Many reviewers concluded that the film prioritized technical realism over dramatic expressiveness, resulting in a visually astonishing but emotionally more distant experience. Another recurring point of discussion centered on the film's faithfulness to the original. Some critics appreciated that Favreau chose to preserve the story, dialogue, music, and structure of the 1994 film, believing longtime fans would welcome a respectful recreation of a beloved classic.